All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our 12 o'clock session. I am absolutely delighted to introduce Dario Lorenzo, a research librarian at the Mexico City office of Baker McKenzie. He is a enthusiastic law library technology person, and so he's going to be talking to us today about building trust blockchain applications for law libraries. Dario, welcome, and I will turn it over to you.
Sorry, you hear me well? Because I'm having like some problems with my network connection. Do you hear me well? Perfect. So let me share this. Well, listen. And if you can confirm this question. Loading.
It's a little hard to hear you right now.
You see there.
We can see it, yes, but it is a little hard to hear you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. First of all, I feel deeply honored to be a speaker at the institute. Thank you so much for the invitation. I hope you enjoy these materials for the conference. And I want, before starting this conference, I would like you to ask two initial questions that will serve for the main objective is at the end of the session, you will learn at least the basics of blockchain. And I just need some thumbs up, and that will be all. But the first question is, who of you have that to become familiar with the term blockchain? Giving some.
Dario, it's a little hard to hear you. Do you have a different speaker that you can use? I think people are having a hard time hearing you.
Give me a couple of. I will.
Not a Zoom meeting if there aren't technical difficulties, right?
Always do.
I've heard a rumor that if you turn off your video, maybe your sound will work better.
Right. It works. Can you hear me well? Can you hear me there?
Yes. Oh, that's a little better. Yeah.
It's better. Well, perfect. So I was saying that. Let me again share this presentation. And I was mentioning you have the opportunity of become familiar. I mean, the answer or the aim of this presentation will be, I will try to explain this of the aim of the session. My main objective is that you understand those like clarity with these two questions. So the first one, as I was mentioning, hope you have had to become familiar with the term blockchain. And the second one is how many of you have a clear understanding of the blockchain technology? It might be probable that you might have heard mentions of blockchain in conversation, news stories related to Bitcoin prices and how it has generated wealth for some people. And it's undeniable that this is the start to revolutionize not only the financial sphere, but also for sectors in the coming years. The library are part of this of this. So, I really think so. Being interested in this presentation, as the presenters already introduced me. My name is Dario Lorenzo, and I'm a city. And throughout my career, I have developed the interest in technologies. Much of my professional experience has been focused on the implementation and adoption of new technologies. Looking as a research librarian, McKenzie, and I would say so far it has been a but before we start with
All right, please excuse me, Dario. We are going to try one more thing. We're going to have you speak, and I will do the slideshow. So just let me know when to change the slides, and we're hoping that will improve how well we can hear you.
you having troubles.
Yeah, we were having troubles hearing you, but I'll do the slideshow if everyone can see it, and we'll listen to you speak.
I hope it's I apologize. So we start with the conference. Let me quickly share a story about blockchain. It was really fun at that moment.
Oh.
It was a little bit shaming for me. I very much am not a professional, nor even a technical blockchain professional. Although I studied to learn more about in a master,
Okay.
you're still having troubles, Bianca?
Let's see.
Yeah,
We
Dario,
are.
it's hard to hear you. Yeah. I wonder if you could maybe dial in by phone is that an option for you?
Is this better? I'm trying to move from place.
Yeah, you know how to switch to the phone?
Can you hear me there?
Yes, it sounds really good right now. Say a couple more sentences and we'll see if it keeps going.
Perfect. Okay, so I was like talking about the history about blockchain, and I was saying that before start like with the content, I wanted to share this because at that moment it was a little bit shaming for me, but now like I think about it, and it's a really fun story to share. Bear in mind, I'm not a technical blockchain professional, although I studied to learn more about blockchain in a master ended in 2022. I remember that uh, later, after ending this master, I was walking around the office and I unexpectedly encountered a friend. We settled down for a meal and engaged in a conversation about technology, during which the subject blockchain technology arose. basically, my friend kindly asked me for help to understand what this technology was. And the fun part is that, to be honest, for me, it was a challenging moment. Despite my major effort trying to explain, at that specific moment, I did not have a clear understanding of the technical and conceptual aspects of blockchain. Initially, I share my personal experience. Many of the professionals being in that field used to do. It was more focused on the investment side, which is only a small piece of blockchain technology, which, by the way, that investment didn't go as I was suspecting. Therefore, the blockchain topic in order to share the academic experience I gained few years ago, coupled with literature research on the state of art of blockchain libraries. I thought it would be a good revenge to talk about this technology. Well, although this technology has not experienced such a wide development as artificial intelligence, in which we see constantly advancing in various and different fields, so far has not made a profound impact that transformed the world in general terms. And please don't get me wrong. Blockchain it's a really well-known technology in different sectors, but I would say it's restricted very specific uh, industries such as finance, supply chain, healthcare, intellectual property, for patents, the document emission, digital and electronic signing. Uh, for that, basically now let's start with the presentation. For that, the agenda is considering the aspects. We'll talk a little bit about the background, and as I mentioned earlier, the main objective of this presentation is that you understand in general terms the blockchain concept. So I just wanted to quickly ask if it's if I'm hearing well, if it's okay, my sound, if it's going good.
Yeah, it's better. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's perfect. Yeah, I was like just wanted to confirm. So perfect. If we can jump into the next slide, please. This is a really strong image, and it's a really powerful image. Sorry. Basically, it was one of the reasons that I decided to establish like the title, like building trust. On the internet, nobody knows you are. That's exactly what it's all about blockchain. Blockchain is tends to create trust among a community. So Lawrence Leasing suggests that no one knows because internet protocols require no user to confirm their own identity. Uh, if we can jump into the next one, please. So perfect. So for understand the blockchain technology, it's important to know or the origins. So if we look back to 2008, uh, there was someone called Satoshi Nakamoto who issued a white paper, an interesting white paper. At that moment, it was a revolutionary proposal. Nobody was really considering, but he introduced the theory behind Bitcoin, in which he was suggesting peer-to-peer payment system. If we think it carefully, how was that possible? Uh, like having the central authorities as the banks, it would be a little bit complicated to have this kind of. So he was proposing the peer-to-peer systems that basically enables direct online payments between parties without intermediaries. Keep in mind this because these will be the principles used in many projects, not only in libraries, but in other spheres like the fintech, like healthcare. And this groundbreaking concept relies on decentralization. And just to clarify, basically what decentralization is that there's no a third party, unlike modern financial institutions. Blockchain networks operate without a centralized authority. Information within these networks remains beyond the control of any single entity. Think of this as a city, like in which we agreed to to add specific buildings, to add house, to add a parking lot. But before that, we agreed. We had a deeply conversation about what we were interested in. So let's keep in mind this city example in which we all agreed to start adding some initial buildings. And basically, Satoshi Nakamoto proposes three principles. There were more, but I will focus on the ones that are the most interesting and that are still being used in the present. So one of those principles is the double spending actions. Uh, Basically, the white paper proposes a solution to this problem, and the central idea is that individuals can conduct a transaction directly without requiring an intermediary. The key assurance lies on the irreversibility of the transactions. In other words, once a transaction occurs, it cannot be undone or reversed. I know there's a lot of technical concepts, but I will try to give a really practical example after talking about all of this. So let's say this way. Say you have one Bitcoin in your crypto wallet. What's a crypto wallet? We will discuss it later also. But say you have one Bitcoin in your crypto wallet. What does that actually mean? Well, it means that users worldwide have copies of the historical records of transactions using Bitcoin. And those records are all in agreement about the balance in your account. But what if someone wants to submit a fraudulent transaction trying to spend that same Bitcoin again? Well, that's the main reason that miners exist. We will also talk about miners, what they are. But miners must check every new transactions, and they have a really strong incentive. They usually are rewarded with fractions or complete bit. So that's like the first trade. Now let's talk a little bit the times server, which is basically the solution for the double spending hash. A timestamp proves that a particular block was added to a chain at a specific time. A block becomes irreversible the moment it is time-stamped. Any conflicting transaction that attempt to double spend the crypto in a time-stamped block usually fails. This is one of the successes of the blockchain technology. So basically, what does the timestamps do? Usually, which are the characteristics? Basically, these are used for keeping records of information online on a computer. This is also interesting for us librarians, and then you will see an example later, because it keeps the records of essential information. It is a proof that the records or the information exist, and this is also useful for authenticate that something is real. So if we think about in rare materials like print materials, that will be a great example of how blockchain is. And finally, the proof of work. Uh, Basically, the proof of work serves as the original consensus mechanism in the world of cryptocurrencies. It relies on a process called mining, which involves virtual miners competing globally to solve complex mathematical puzzles. Basically, it's a global competition where the faster solver wins. We talked a little bit about. We can jump into the next slide. As I was mentioning, just to have clarity of what I was trying to explain with time stop. You can see here this image, like essential information. When this block was created, the time, the transaction, and in some instance, you will see the computer code in which you will find the smart contract. But this is a great example of the information you will find about blockchain. We can jump into the next one, please. I will try to go a little bit faster because of the time. At the very start, let's clear up one of the common blockchain concepts that may generate confusion. Blockchain technology operates as a distributed ledger system. Decentralization, enhanced transparency, security, unchangeability or immutability, and more. In general, a block consists of three things, namely data, cache, and a hash of the previous. So every block of chain consists of cryptographic hash of its own, as well as of the previous one to stay connected. To say some easy hash is a unique alphanumeric number, which is being calculated based on data of its own. To be more clear, if we jump into the next one, thank you. This will help to clarify the concept of blockchain, and let's think about it as the traditional ledger paper in which each page would reference a block that is connected to the previous page, but by the number. So it's almost impossible to have any change in this in this ledger. Each entry written in the ledger would be a transaction. It would be easy to detect if a page or block has been thrown out. It would be easy to organize the page to see if there was or if there has been any malicious activity by inspecting this page. It would be almost impossible, and I say almost because there has been some projects in the blockchain world in which intentionally the developers left those gates open. But basically, it's impossible to tamper with general ledger entry without anyone noticing this, because if everyone has access to this information. Every accountant in the company would keep an instant update, identical copy of the general ledger. So far, if we can go next one, we have been talking about main concepts of this technology, and I would like you to ask, it's like doesn't mind like for your individual analysis, but which would you say is the most important history to build in blockchain? Let's give just like 20 seconds. If someone wants to give an answer like in the chat, it would be great. Which is the most important story to build? Okay. Basically, the most important story to build between or among the community is the trust. That's what I was saying initially, the reason to share the image. But remember the example of the city. Basically, we decide to start having some buildings and some houses and some cars and some parking lots because we trust each other, and we decide to build strong structures with those buildings. They are not going to fall apart. We trust in each node so that we can start building history. But the most important story to build is related to the trust. So let's say this way. Consider a simple algebraic formula, such as 10x equal to 70. X must equal 7. If someone claims x equals 8, they are wrong, no exception. The trustworthiness of blockchain entries works in a similar way. Uses some complicated math or cryptography. If you look under the hood of any blockchain, you will find cryptographical hashes throughout. Every wallet is such a hash, as every transaction and every NFT collection. By the way, an NFT means a unique object in the real life. It could be a unique object in real life. If we can jump into the next one, please. Perfect. So let's jump with the blockchain concept after talking a little bit some of the principles, some of the main characteristics of this technology. We have the basic elements to start a definition or to build a definition around this technology. So basically, the ledger is the place in which we will find a list of all the transactions made. We also, it's built that store information and can store chains of information. Decentralization, that basically is not controlled by one entity. All users have equal access to the information available on the blockchain. It's immutable. Once information has been recorded, there is no way it can be changed. And it's transparent. All transactions are in a public blockchain. Ethereum, for example, transaction information is public to any user. So after saying this, you may be wondering what happens to the information in this block? What happens with my privacy when I'm doing a transaction? Well, it's interesting. And if we can jump into the next slide, and I promise I will in this image, you will see the graphical representation of trust. People showing transactions, one to each other. To the left, we are seeing transaction and those transactions in the left. We can visit some, if you can jump into the next one, please. For example, well, this is the transaction details. We talk a little bit about it, in which we will find specific or essential information, like the hash, like the date it was created, who the transaction was made for, who sent it, if whatever it was meant to be sent. Jump, please. Some examples of blockchain deployment. In this case, Cardano from the Ethereum blockchain. If we can jump into the next one also, there's Polygon with Matic. You will find the same information. You will see the blocks, the transactions. If we can jump, please, into the next one. It's important also to talk about blockchain types because it will be interesting to see blockchain library using implementation in these three different layers. Basically, it exists three different, like private, public, and the federated. The main thing with this is that, for example, in the public, everyone has access to the network. For the private, trusted intermediary, it's controlled. So it loses like the decentralization concept, because if you are not an allowed user, you won't be able to participate in that blockchain. It works in a similar way the federated blockchain allowed. These are some, and if we can jump into the next, it's not as relevant as with libraries. All of this, all the double spending, the data, the blocks, the hashes wouldn't be possible without the smart contracts. These smart contracts are actions that might include releasing funds to the appropriate parties, as we saw in the previous example. Registering a vehicle, it's also a possibility. Sending notifications or issuing a ticket, it's also possible. Remember in the introduction, some of the principal uses of blockchain is for document emission, healthcare records, and many more. So the smart contracts are those instructions that help blockchain. If this condition is known, then release the funds. Jumping into the next one, please, just to try to keep a clear thing about what is not a blockchain. So far, we have discovered a blockchain is a ledger. We can record transactions that were agreed by a community. These transactions are irreversible, but it may happen also blockchain has some misconfusion around. So Bitcoin and blockchain are often confused. Usually people think that are the same thing, and no, as we have here blockchain is only the technological framework. Bitcoin is the asset that is playing around the place. If we can click, blockchain and cryptocurrency are made together. We discovered now because we have talked uh, about different implementations in different spheres like uh, healthcare, many others. It's a network with no transparency. All the activities of blockchain are traceable since an exact copy is replicated across the node with the help of the distributed technology. So it's no, so yeah, we have to understand that this type of networks have a total transparency and it's public, all the participants. Let's go a little bit quick into the next one, please. Let's continue. It's 100. This one is interesting. It's 100% immutable. We discussed a little bit about the immutability that transactions are not reversible, but to be honest, if you dig a little bit, blockchain and transactions to be in some parts has to be mutable, has to update the records in to be specific the amounts that you have in the wallet. So it's not 100% immutable because it, there are some specific sections in this technology that need a constant. We can continue. So we get the interesting part, and I have just a couple of minutes to finish and give some final considerations because I really want to hear from you. I know I read a question. These are some of the applications of blockchain in libraries that I have found. For example, this is the NFT public library. And we click to the next slide, please. As you can see, there are some specific details that we have discussed. There's a title referencing the ebook. We are using a public blockchain. There are some other details, really interesting details, the copy art, the ebook. And remember, blockchain does not store the assets. It's only referencing the essential information of something. It's just a reference. It's not storing any kind of information. If we jump into the next one, please. There are also some interesting projects in the publishing industry. One of them is Bookchain, which is trying or which is focused on ensuring authors or it's proposing new rules authors. For example, this is security. They help to publish and distribute content according to specific preference. The platform leverages smart contracts and NFT technology to enforce the chosen publishing parameters, combating illegal copying, and potential. These are some of the characteristics of these projects. I found really interesting because if we do the systematic review in the literature, it's interesting that in 2018, people was talking about conceptual framework, but in 2022, 2020, we have seen many more. own technology that involves library. This is one that I really enjoy exploring because this is um, industry. If we jump into the next one, I think it's this one. Yeah, it's also another one really interesting because it's proposing an interlibrary loan between some parties in which the library has to authorize both to ask allies. They have to be part of the institution, but these are some of implementations that are working on and has to do with everything. Next one, please. Research is another tool that is not intended to be for libraries, but it has to do with searches. As we talk about art, if you uh, make searches here, if you start like learning some pieces or of crypto, it's interesting also this kind of things. And next one, like trying to close to the next one, please. I think the slides will be shared with you, with all of the audience. So if you were interested in any specific project, you can simply refer to the slides. So please let's click that before this slide. Okay. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's it.
Sorry.
Sorry for the noise. Oh, perfect. And I'm about to finish, and I'm about to end this. And I really want to share this analysis with you. Uh, while the potential uses of blockchain in libraries are promising, it's critical to recognize the challenges and considerations associated with this undertaking. For example, uh, doing this research, I found that one of the biggest challenge for libraries will be the technology, the infrastructure, because implementing blockchain requires investment in technology, infrastructure, and ongoing maintenance. Smaller, I think that smaller libraries will have difficulties in adapting this process. It's also important to mention that I have noted something really interesting in all the enthusiasts around the blockchain technology, but if it's related to education. As with every new technology, education is essential in any process of implementation, of implementing any new technology. Patrons, the library may need education and training to understand and use blockchain-based systems. It we are not trying to say that this technology is going to replace all the pre-existing technology. For example, integration with existing technology in the library. If we just implemented an ILS a couple of months ago, we need to evaluate or analyze if our solution uh, it's it's possible to integrate with blockchain, or if we need additional additional characteristics to be well, uh, Regulatory and compliance, libraries must navigate legal regulatory frameworks related to data protection and privacy when implementing a blockchain solution. It's crucial to focus on education and simplification. Initiatives should be aimed at demystifying the complexity of blockchain and digital assets by providing accessible, easy to understand resources and promoting user-friendly tools and platforms. And if we jump into the next one, please finalize these meetings as we this conference. Sorry, as I was mentioning, blockchain is not for our libraries at this moment. Technology will continue evolving. For example, I read so many papers talking about transferring finance or transferring or building infrastructure around the finance so that libraries can pay directly to the publisher. And I see that as a little bit hard to be completed, basically because it's not about the libraries. Usually finance is the department in charge of these payments, and it would be a little bit complex to deal with this. It's as you can see, something two departments has to work around and to develop solutions. I would like to see some implementation, but I think it's hard to see this in the full. As we can talk, libraries blockchain can be valuable tools for storing, serving, sharing information. Something that I really like about this specific section is that I found an article talking about ensuring authenticity of cultural heritage, and I mentioned it earlier. Uh, I see this also as a complex thing because it has to be an entity that authenticates the book, the print book, before it's recorded like in the blockchain. And finally, for interlibrary loans, we saw so many examples. Verifiable academic credential, also like for using digital libraries or federated resources. And I don't really want to take more time. This has been a really interesting time for me researching about blockchain, about possibilities of implementation in libraries. And as I mentioned, I really want to hear about you in case you have any doubts, any questions. I read a couple in the chat, so I will give a couple of seconds. Let me just get those questions.
We probably just have time for one question, Dario.
Perfect, thank you. Taryn, yes, I'm seeing one question. Does that mean that each blockchain transaction takes longer and longer to change rules? For yes, for public blockchains, it takes a lot of times to process this transaction. That's one of the reasons to use different consensus protocols. Blockchain is actually using a proof of work. Ethereum was using proof of work. They migrate, I guess it was last year, making an efficient way to process transactions. But yes, if the blockchain increases in terms of users, it becomes a little bit slower. But there are some characteristics, or there are some other consensus that will help to improve the efficiency of of the network. And I really just want to thank you so much, to thank Bianca, to thank Doreen for the time, for having this presentation. I will leave my email. If you want to contact me, you can contact me through that email, or you can connect with me through LinkedIn. Again, thank you so much for letting me be part of this conference.
Yes, thank you so much. We really appreciate, Dario, your patience with all of our technology issues. Thank you, audience, for your patience with our issues. We're going to go on our break now, but we will be back at 1 o'clock for our lunch and learn. And please do reach out to Dario, because he clearly has lots and lots of knowledge about this that we all need to learn about. All right, we'll see you in a bit.